We are into the trumpet judgments of God. Stay tuned. Let's see what it's all about. So here we are, guys, Revelation chapter 8, and we are breaking into the seventh seal. The parallels of this chapter are somewhat amazing. I thought it would be important to bring this out, how this breaking of this seal parallels with the rituals that would actually be happening in the Jewish temple by the priests on the Day of Atonement. We're going to see how the priest takes the incense, which in the book of Revelation says that it's the prayers of the saints. And you're going to see how all of the things that would be in the Jewish temple for this ceremony are actually going to show up in the book of Revelation, where we're going to see the incense, the golden censer, all the things that would happen. The 30 minutes of silence. Actually, when the priest went in on the Day of Atonement to sprinkle the blood, he was the only one allowed into the Holy of Holies, and there was 30 minutes of silence as he sprinkled the blood inside the Holy of Holies. So really interesting parallels that we're going to see as we jump into this Revelation chapter 8. Okay, guys, so here we are. We're back. We're back in the book of Revelation, and we are picking up on chapter 8. Quick recap. Last time we did a recap of the book and got into chapter 7. Chapter 7 talks about the calamities from chapter 6 are about to hit the earth. And there are 4 angels that are spread out on the 4 corners of the earth, and they're about to pour out this calamity upon the earth. And an angel comes out of the east. This is a recap of chapter 7. The angel comes out of the east and says, hold up a minute, before this calamity hits the earth, we have to seal the servants of the living God. And they seal 144,000 Jewish evangelists to go out into the earth and preach the gospel of Jesus Christ. And it lists who they are: 12,000 from all the tribes of the nation of the 12 tribes. And they're sent out, and middle of chapter 7, it talks about this great multitude of people, multi-millions of people before the throne of God, from every nation, tribe, and tongue. And one of the elders, one of the 24 elders, comes up to John, who's seeing the vision, and says, John, so who are these millions of people before the throne? And John says, you know, tell me. And he says, these are those that have come out of great tribulation. So this 7-year tribulation period that the world is in, there are going to be multi-millions of people that come to Christ during this time, because of the 144,000 Jewish evangelists that are out on the earth finally doing their job, which was really the nation of Israel was supposed to follow God and show God to the world. And now they're going to do it in whole-scale fashion. Chapter 7 ends where this multitude is before the throne of God, and God is dwelling among them. And God says, I'm going to wipe every tear from their eye. They're not going to hunger. They're not going to thirst. And these people which are in the Great Tribulation. They are going through the Great Tribulation, and the Antichrist, the world leader that is in charge at that time, is not going to like them at all, and he's going to be hunting them down to kill them. They're probably going to have to die to come to Christ, but regardless, they're not going to deny Jesus. So they end up in white robes before the throne. And that's how chapter 7 ends. So we're going to pick up on chapter 8, and let's jump right in. Chapter 8, verse 1 says, chapter 8, verse 1 is, we're going to actually crack the 7th seal. So chapter 8, verse 1. When he opened the 7th seal, there was silence in heaven for about half an hour. That's pretty scary right there. And I saw the 7 angels who stand before God, and to them were given 7 trumpets. Then another angel, having a golden censer, came and stood at the altar. He was given much incense, that he should offer it with the prayers of all the saints upon the golden altar which was before the throne. You think your prayers aren't being heard? God's got them. Verse 4. And the smoke of the incense with the prayers of the saints ascended before God from the angel's hands. Verse 5. Then the angel took the censer, filled it with fire from the altar, and threw it to the earth. And there were noises, thunderings, lightnings, and an earthquake. So the 7 angels who had the 7 trumpets prepared themselves to sound. Okay. So, chapter 8 starts off with the 7th seal. Now remember, we got the 7 seals, and then we've got the 7 trumpets, and then we got the 7 bowl vials that are poured out. And it just gets worse and worse and worse. And the earth is going to be just devastated. So what we see is the prayers of the saints are really important, obviously. And what happens is an angel takes the prayers and mixes it with fire and casts it to the earth. And as that hits the earth, the angel says, the ones that are before the throne that have the trumpets, they're preparing to blow their trumpets. And each trumpet is a judgment. And so we're going to get, this is not to scare people, but the end is going to come. And, it's just a matter of, where you're going to be when it happens. And how do you look at, do you look at it like God beating us up, or do you look at it like man has gotten so depraved and off balance and off center that if God didn't judge the nations, they would destroy themselves anyway? So everything is made to bring people to God. And it just seems like blessings don't do it. A lot of people don't know they need God until they get to a place where they're in desperate need. So let's pick it up in verse 7 and let's see what happens with these trumpets. Verse 7, the first angel sounded, and hail and fire followed, mingled with blood, and they were thrown to the earth, and 1/3 of the trees were burned up, and all green grass was burned up. First trumpet. 1/3 of the trees were burned up, and all the green grass was burned up. Verse 8, second trumpet. Then the second angel sounded, and something like a great mountain burning with fire was thrown into the sea, and 1/3 of the sea became blood. Second trumpet. Call it what you want, asteroid, whatever, mountain coming out of the earth. Remember, like when, if you notice, when God tries to describe something, if it's not exactly what it says, he says it's like this. I explained it in the last lesson, but If it's like something, it's not it, but it kind of resembles it. So he's just trying to give you a description of what it is. Second angel sounded, and it was like a great mountain burning. I would say it's an asteroid, but who knows? And a third of the sea became like blood, and a third of the living creatures in the sea died, and a third of the ships were destroyed. Wow. A third. I mean, this is just starting. Second trumpet. Verse 10. Then the third angel sounded, and a great star fell from heaven, burning like a torch, and it fell on a third of the rivers and on the springs of waters. And the name, verse 11, and the name of the star is wormwood. A third of the waters became wormwood, and many men died from the water, because it was made bitter. Verse 12. Okay, so verse 11, verse 10 and 11 was the third trumpet. And it struck the waters, and it made them bitter, and men died from the waters of the rivers. Verse 12. Then the fourth angel sounded, and a third of the sun was struck, a third of the moon, and a third of the stars, so that a third of them were darkened. A third of the day did not shine, and likewise the night. Okay, so I want you to notice that the nature and the things of the earth are where this calamity begins. It's the waters, it's the stars, it's the trees, it's the grass, it's the things that God created that man doesn't even think exist now are beginning to get wiped away. And he starts with a third of them. Okay. So let's look at verse 13. So we've gone through 4 of the trumpets, 4 of the 7. Okay. Verse 13, and this ends chapter 8. Verse 13 says, And I looked, and I heard an angel flying through the midst of heaven, saying with a loud voice, I want you to catch this, saying, so now there's an angel flying through heaven after these things have happened, because people are probably freaked out. And I looked, and I heard an angel flying through the midst of heaven, saying with a loud voice, Woe, woe, woe to the inhabitants of the earth, because of the remaining blasts of the trumpet of the 3 angels who are about to sound. Woe, woe, woe. So he's saying, you just lost a third of the trees, all the grass, a third of the rivers or waters are turned to blood. Men are getting sick and dying from it. The sun, moon, and stars are darkened, a third of it. And there's 3 more blasts, and when they come, whoa, whoa, whoa. Now I'm going to just touch on chapter 9 because I kind of want to remember when the original writings were written, there was no chapters and verses. It was just writing. So we put the chapters and verses in there so we could figure out where we are. So I'm going to go into chapter 9 because I want to get through these last 3 trumpets. Well, 2 of them anyway. So let's pick it up in chapter 9, verse 1. Then the 5th angel sounded, and I saw a star fall from heaven to the earth. To him was given the key to the bottomless pit. Verse 2. And he opened the bottomless pit, and smoke arose out of the pit, like the smoke of a great furnace. So the sun and the air were darkened because of the smoke of the pit. Verse 3. Then out of the smoke locusts came upon the earth, and to them was given power, as the scorpions of the earth have power. Now, I want you to notice, you see this all through the Bible. Sometimes people just kind of read right over it. Like when Jesus was talking to Peter, and Peter was about to deny Christ, and he didn't know it, and Christ said, the devil has asked to sift you as wheat. In other words, whatever the evil one does, he needs permission. he needs permission from God to do these acts. So it's not that God does it, but he allows it. Listen, you want to operate in that realm, then here you are. So I just want you to know that these locusts that come out, they were given this power and this authority. Verse 4. So they were commanded, these locusts that are coming out of the earth, verse 4, chapter 9, they were commanded not to harm the grass of the earth, or any green thing, or any tree, but only those men who do not have the seal of God on their forehead. So these locusts are allowed to strike anyone except the 144,000 ones that were sealed. Verse 5, they were not given authority to kill them, but to torment them for 5 months. Their torment was like the torment of a scorpion when it strikes a man. Verse 6, in those days men will seek death and will not find it. They will desire to die, and death will flee from them. Verse 7, the shape of the locust was like horses prepared for battle. On their heads were crowns of something like gold, and their faces were like the faces of men. I emphasize the word like because it doesn't have the face of a man. If it's like the face of a man, then obviously it's not the face of a man. So all these descriptions are giving you a picture, but not the actual thing. So, verse 8, they had hair like women's hair, and their teeth were like lions' teeth. Verse 9, and they had breastplates like the breastplates of iron, and the sound of their wings was like the sound of chariots with many horses running into battle. Verse 11, I could comment on this. A lot of people have said these are helicopters with biological, chemical warfare. Anything's possible. But the reality is nothing happens unless God allows it to happen. And that's the reality of it. Verse 10, they had tails like scorpions, and there were stings in their tails. Their power was to hurt men 5 months. And they had as king over them the angel of the bottomless pit, whose name in Hebrew is Abaddon, but in Greek he has the name Apollyon. 1 woe is past. Behold, still 2 more woes are coming after these things. So that brings us to the end of verse 12, and I don't want to get into the 6th trumpet yet, so we're going to stop right here, and we will see you next time when we pick up the book of Revelation, chapter 9, halfway through. We're going to get into the 6th trumpet, and hope to see you again soon. Take care.